Okay, picture this. You run a small business, maybe something you've built from the ground up. You wake up one morning, check your sales, and realize that an invisible digital mob has wiped you out overnight. Your life's work is just gone. This isn't science fiction. It's a new kind of digital heist, and it's happening right now.
This right here, this was a real message, a heartbreaking plea from the owner of a small online fruit shop. They made one tiny mistake, a simple typo on their store's webpage, and it triggered a catastrophe that brought their entire business to its knees. So, what on earth happened?
Well, that typo meant the shop accidentally listed 2,250 kilograms of fresh oranges. We're talking nearly 5,000 pounds for just 26 yuan. That's about $4. In an instant, a completely automated swarm of buyers slammed their store with orders totaling over $1 million, an absolutely impossible amount for a small family farm to ever fulfill.
So, to really get what's going on here, we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the victims. What happened to them? Then, we'll meet the culprits behind these attacks, these groups called wool pullers. We're going to go inside their fraud factories, see the digital arms race they're fighting with huge corporations. And finally, we'll ask the big question. Could your favorite app be their next target?
You know, the story of that little fruit shop is just devastating. But believe me, it is not a one-off thing. This is happening on a massive scale, and it's targeting some of the biggest companies you can think of.
Get this. In 2018, Starbucks in China ran a simple promotion. New app users get a free coffee. A day and a half later, they had to pull the plug. They'd lost over 10 million yuan to a massive army of fake accounts. The e-commerce giant Pinduoduo lost tens of millions in a matter of hours when fraudsters found a bug in one of their coupons. And then there's Shanghai Dazihui. They lost a mind-boggling 1.7 billion yuan on a live streaming promotion. It almost bankrupted the company.
So who is doing this? They're known as wool-pulling parties, or Yangmaodong in Mandarin. And for such a destructive group, you'd be surprised where that name actually comes from.
Originally, the term wool puller just meant a really thrifty shopper, someone who was clever at finding deals and using coupons. But over time, that meaning has twisted into something way, way darker. Now it means organized crime rings that use fraud and automation to bleed companies dry for profit.
The name actually comes from a really popular Chinese TV drama from back in 1999. In the show, there's this elderly woman who secretly plucks just a tiny bit of wool from her employer's sheep every day, and eventually she collects enough to knit a warm sweater for her husband. It was this touching story of being resourceful. Today, that same idea is being used on an industrial, criminal scale.
So let's be super clear about the difference here. A thrifty shopper wants to save money on their own stuff. They use legitimate deals, and they actually help the business by buying things. A professional wool puller, on the other hand, wants to generate profit through pure fraud. They use thousands of automated fake accounts, and their only impact is causing massive, massive financial damage. These are two completely different worlds.
And don't make the mistake of thinking this is just some bored kid in a basement. No way. This is a full-blown black market industry. It has a sophisticated supply chain where every single part of the operation is its own specialized for-profit service.
It's like a digital heist, and it usually follows 4 steps. First, you acquire your assets. That means buying up thousands of fake accounts and SIM cards. Second, you develop your tools, which are custom software scripts designed to hammer a company's promotion automatically. Third, you launch the attack, using specialized hardware to run it all at once. And finally, the payoff. You liquidate all those stolen points or coupons and turn them into cold, hard cash.
And the craziest part? The cost to get started is shockingly low. You can buy 100 brand new accounts for a huge e-commerce site for as little as 65 yuan. That's like $9. And if you want to look a little more legit, you can pay more for these high-trust accounts that have been artificially aged to look like they belong to a real person.
To manage these thousands of accounts, they use some pretty serious professional tools. They get their SIM cards from countries that don't ask for a lot of ID, or they'll even repurpose data SIMs that were meant for stuff like smart vending machines. They use software like OpenSTF that lets them control thousands of phones right from a web browser. And then there's this hardware called Malchi, which translates to cat pools. These are basically modem banks that let a single computer automate actions for dozens and dozens of SIM cards all at once.
So, as you can probably guess, companies aren't just taking this lying down. What's happened is this has kicked off a high-stakes, invisible arms race between the corporate security teams and these fraud factories.
The first line of defense was something we've all struggled with, the CAPTCHA. You know those squiggly, distorted letters that are supposed to prove you're human because a simple computer program couldn't possibly read them. And for a while, yeah, it actually worked.
But the wool pullers are relentless. They fought back by building AI systems. They trained them on millions of these CAPTCHAs until the AI could read those distorted letters just as well as any human, sometimes even better. And just like that, the first wall of defense completely crumbled.
So, the companies had to get smarter. Their next move was voice call verification. So instead of sending you a text message with a code, you'd get an automated phone call that reads the code out loud. This was actually pretty clever because a lot of the cheap SIM cards the fraudsters were using were data only. They couldn't even receive phone calls. But, once again, the fraudsters adapted. They just started buying SIMs that could get calls, and then they paired them with AI that could listen to the call, recognize the numbers being spoken, and automatically punch in the code. Defense number 2, defeated.
Okay, this brings us to the really cutting-edge stuff that's happening right now. The new strategy isn't about giving you a puzzle that a bot can't solve, it's about giving you a puzzle and seeing if you solve it like a human.
This is what's so cool about these new defenses. One of them is a simple jigsaw puzzle. Now, a bot can solve this instantly, perfectly. But a human? We move the piece, we hesitate, we might overshoot it a little, we slow down as we get close. The system isn't just checking if you solve the puzzle, it's analyzing the behavior of your mouse movements. Another type asks you to identify things in a 3D space, which is something that AI still really struggles with. It's a whole new ballgame.
So you might be thinking, okay, this is an interesting battle between Chinese fraudsters and giant corporations, but why does this matter to me? Well, it matters because these groups are organized, they are very sophisticated, and they are absolutely going global.
Take a look at Japan. In 2019, 7-Eleven launched a brand new payment app and almost immediately got hammered by a massive fraud attack. They lost 55 million yen, about $500,000 US. And the way the attackers did it, using other people as mules to withdraw the stolen cash, had all the fingerprints of a professional wool-pulling operation. This isn't just a regional issue anymore. It's a blueprint for digital crime that can be used anywhere.
And this creates a huge problem for basically every single app on your phone. See, to grow their user base, they need to make signing up as quick and easy as possible. Less friction. But the easier it is for you to join, the easier it is for an army of bots to join too. If they add more security, they annoy and lose real customers. If they focus on growth, they open the floodgates for fraud. They're constantly walking this razor's edge.
So, the next time you see some amazing sign-up bonus or a deal that just seems way too good to be true, it's worth taking a second to think, is this just a great promotion? Or is it a weak spot that an invisible digital army is about to attack? And if they do, who is the one that's really paying the price for it?